Okay, welcome back. I'm very happy that we have a virtual conference now about the BLIZ, Blasmusikinformationszentrum. And now after the General Assembly, it is my pleasure to introduce this presentation, which is dedicated, as I said, to the BLIZ, only a part of Wolfgang-Suppmann's estate. This collection is now curated by the Styrian State Library, Katharina Kocher-Lichem, the director of the library, and Verena from the Music University and Performing Arts here in Graz, where we are now, will present this BLIZ. It is particularly gratifying that Ms. Kocher-Lichem has taken a personal interest in ensuring the preservation of the BLIZ, and I would like to express my sincere thanks for her commitment. The presentation is connected to a broader and quite fundamental question. How can wind music and brass music and music of all kinds be more firmly anchored within the academic landscape? And in what ways might strong organizations such as the Austrian Wind Band Association, Österreichische Blasmusikverband, and I'm very happy that we have here Fritz Anzenberger tonight from also the General Secretary, I suppose. And I'm happy that you're here to listen to this presentation. And again, my question: in what ways might strong organizations such as the ÖBV and IGAP collaborate in this regard? Considering the immense social importance of wind band musicians in Austria, with I don't know how many, but with surely many thousands dedicating much of their free time to it, and several traditions now recognized as part of Austria's cultural heritage, this is undoubtedly a matter of significance. A telling example of how such anchoring can succeed on an artistic level is provided by the Mozarteum University. Its university wind orchestra, under the direction of Hans-Jörg Angerer, gained international recognition and even performed this year in January under Christian Thielemann a dedicated concert. In recent years, Hans-Jörg Angerer has also directed the Salzburg Wind Philharmonic, an ensemble of international standing and ranking, giving at Epiphany Day, 6th of January, every year concert at Großes Festspielhaus in Salzburg. Precisely because wind music research explicitly aims to serve musical practice, its institutional establishment within a university of music would be ideal. Against this background, we should like to see today's presentation as the beginning, hopefully, of a broader conversation, a discussion about how wind music research might be positioned and strengthened both intellectually and institutionally within the academic world. And now I pass the floor to Katharina and to Verena.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Katharina Kocher-Lichem, and I have been the director of the Styrian State Library since 2014. The Styrian State Library is the largest state library in Austria. It was founded in 1811 by Archduke Johann. It was established as a scientific library with the task of collecting Styriaca, that is, publications about Styria by Styrians and works published in Styria. We still follow this collection policy today. In addition, we are a humanities-focused library with a collection of about 950,000 items. And we have no sheet music collection. Right at the beginning, I would like to emphasize the State Library holds virtually no sheet music, as I said before. These are collected by other libraries or associations. Important institutions in Styria in this regard include the University of Music and Performing Arts in BLIZ, also called Cook, the Styrian Music Society, and the Styrian State Archives. So how did the Wind Music Information Center end up at the State Library? The Wind Music Information Center is known to everyone as BLIZ. BLIZ is the result of a donation of Professor Wolfgang Stupern's collection to the state of Styria. However, this represents only a part of the full collection. Large parts are held at the Pannonian Research Center in Oberschützen, and others still remain in his house in Pürg. In 2002, Wolfgang Stupern donated a significant portion of this collection to the state of Styria. A key condition of this donation was that his son, Armin Stupern, also a wind musician, be allowed to work with the collection and receive an appropriate position with the state of Styria. This was fulfilled. Armin Stupern worked for the state from 2002 until the end of 2024 and managed his father's collection. Another condition of the donation was that the collection had to be housed in the premises of the Johann Joseph Fuchs Conservatory. This arrangement worked well for about 20 years. The collection was located in spacious 100 square meters rooms and was clearly arranged. While it wasn't organized accordingly to library standards, once you get oriented, you could find what you were looking for. Because BLIZ was housed within the conservatory, it was also organizationally assigned to it. But that changed after a few years when the conservatory closed its own library, transferring it to the library of the University of Music and Performing Arts. As a result, BLIZ was reassigned to the Department of Culture and categorized under folk culture. Unfortunately, at that point, little support was provided for Armin Stupern's work, and he felt left alone. No one seemed to understand the value of Wolfgang Stupern's collection. There were discussions about donating the collection to the Wind Music Association, but the association declined. Talks were also held with the University of Music, but due to a lack of space, the university also rejected the ideas of taking over the collection into the library. In June 2022, my superior, the head of Department 9, Culture, Europe, Sports of the state of Styria, transferred the responsibility for BLIZ to the State Library. With this transfer of responsibility, we began to view BLIZ through a professional, library-centered lens. We wanted to make the collection visible in library catalog. Armin Stupern had cataloged about 1/5 of the collection in a very simple but unfortunately outdated library system. We would have liked to migrate this data into our current system, Kocher, but encountered significant difficulties and have not been able to complete the process to this day. I could explain many library-related details, but I assume that's not the focus here. What matters is this. To this day, The large collection of Wolfgang Suppan cannot be searched or accessed through online catalog. Cataloging sheet music according to RDA, Resource Description and Access, the current library standard in Austria, is a discipline of its own. Verena can speak more about this. Unfortunately, we have neither the expertise nor the personal resources in the State Library to develop the skill in-house. This is one of the unsolved challenges. And then came another blow in October 2024. The Johann Josef Fuchs Conservatory needs space for a new chamber music hall to be built in the very rooms where BLIZ was housed. So BLIZ had to move out. But where should we do it? Should we put it? The conservatory had no suggestions or plans. Instead, the question was asked, does anyone still need this collection? A question I, although I had been Armin Suppan's supervisor for 2 years, could not answer with confidence. My gut said, of course, but I had no facts to back it up. Armin Suppan retired in November 2024, and if I wanted to know whether BLIZ was still relevant, I had to find it out by myself. So I did just that. I spoke with Dr. Friedrich Ranzenberger, with Erich Rieger, with David Gasche, with Klaus Aringer, and others. I learned that this collection is highly significant for the research of wind music. As a head of a scientific library committed to academic values, I could not, in good conscience, say we're discarding it. We began searching for the storage room, and this summer moved a large part of the collection into a basement in the same building where BLIZ used to be. It's about a 10-minute walk from the State Library, but still it's just a basement. We moved the estates of Ernest Mayo and Karl Käfer into our library stacks, along with a collection of publishers' catalogs and collection of anniversary, we call it in Austria, Festschrift publications. These materials are now accessible in our reading room for research. As I mentioned earlier, we are not a music library. We have no music specialists. It's not our core area. Sadly, we also had the wind music specialists, which would be crucial for cataloging. But sometimes luck is on our side. I knew that the library of the University of Music had a specialist in wind music research, Magister Verena Paul. I also knew she was enrolled in the postgraduate librarian training program at Graz University Library. I was invited by the program coordinator to present project ideas from the State Library that might be suitable for the students. And it was a perfect match. The head of the University of Music Library, Magister Robert Schiller, supported the project from day one. Verena brought 2 fellow students on board, and the 3 of them embarked on a journey to understand BLIZ. Verena insisted that we also had to visit the Pannonian Research Center in Oberschützen, and so we went to Oberschützen on Shrove Tuesday. That visit was very important for me as well. I had no clear idea of what parts of the Suppan collection were housed there. In May, the 3 students completed a 1-work internship at BLIZ, a very important step. During that week, they began organizing the collection. They got a clear overview of the holdings, asked me 100 questions I couldn't answer, and we worked together to find those answers. I learned so much that week. It was incredible. And the most amazing part was hearing Verena explaining the significance of the music materials and how important they are. We learned that no institution had systematically collected Festschrifts of wind music associations, only Wolfgang Suppan. No one else had collected catalogs of publishers specializing in wind music, only Wolfgang Suppan. I'll stop here. Verena can explain these things much better than I can. I'm very grateful to have this opportunity to speak here today. It's a great honor for me, especially since I'm not a specialist in wind music. But if I may take this opportunity, I would like to ask you for your support. You can help us at the State Library, Verena, and also David Gasche at the Pannonian Research Center for inquiring about the Supam collection. We all promise to do our best to search through these vast collections for anything that may be of interest to you. If we can demonstrate academic interest in this collection, it may help us to better process and preserve it. Thank you very much for your attention. Verena, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, Katharina, for providing this type of information of how this extraordinary collection became part of the Styrian State Library, and for pointing out the difficulties and challenges that this particular collection has presented for the institution. Before I provide more detailed information, I would like to show you some photos of the BLIZ to give you a visual impression. Here you can see the original location of the BLIZ. The photo shows the main part of the nearly 100 square meter room. The shelves in the background hold various kinds of materials such as books, CDs, and a wide range of sheet music. The book troves in the foreground contains scores, and the shelves underneath display bound journals as well as slipcases with sheet music. And not to forget the painting of Joachim Supam on the back wall. On the left side, you can see a mixed shelf with books about wind music and wind music research, community chronicles, theses about wind music, as well as full scores and condensed scores, and sheet music in marchbook format in the narrow compartment, again underneath the jewels. On the right-hand side, there is a shelf which also contains festschriften, commemorative publications, journals made ready for the bookbinder to be bound, and several book ring binders. The next slide shows two photos of the back of the room, which functioned as workspace. Here you can see ring binders, folders, and boxes with administrative materials, sheet music, slipcases containing catalog sheet music. There are also boxes with oversized sheet music and shelves with reference books and tablets, in addition to office supplies and empty storage boxes. And finally, this is the current room in the basement where the BLIZ is now stored. Every shelf and every item is found in place. Temperature and humidity conditions seem to be adequate, but the original order and organization of the shelves could not be fully restored due to space constraints. Maybe it's like bringing cold to Newcastle, but I would nevertheless like to say a few words about Wolfgang Supam, especially for our younger members and those who have not been with us that long. Wolfgang Supam, 1933 to 2015, was a pioneer in the field of wind music research. In 1974, he founded our society. He was the head of the Institute for Ethnomusicology at the University of Music and Performing Arts, Graz, and published an impressive numbers of books, articles, and papers. He initiated important projects to institutionalize wind music research, such as the Pannonian Forschungsstelle and the Institute for Wind Music Research, which unfortunately existed only from 1980 to 2000. His overarching goal was to connect researchers of wind music from all over the world. The full list of his contributions is far too long to mention here. One cannot help but wonder when he found the time to accomplish all of this. Equally noteworthy is the fact that he built his own steadily growing archive and library by collecting all kinds of materials related to wind music. This archive, known as the Blasmusikinformationszentrum, later called Blasmusikinformationszentrum, was located in the small Styrian village of Bürg, which has approximately 150 inhabitants. It contains biographic material which was collected for the Encyclopedia of Wind Music, Lexikon des Blasmusikwesens, all kinds of books related to wind music research and thesis, around 8,000 titles, journals and periodicals about wind music and of wind band organizations, a list mentions about 90 journals. An important part was the sheet music, approximately 25,000 pieces collected in preparation for a planned wind band concert guide, as well as about 15,000 additional pieces of sheet music, including scores and parts with a focus on Central Europe. There was also a large collection of marches, mainly condensed scores but also parts, which were later published in the two Alte Musiker volumes titled Repertorium der Märsche für Blasorchester. These numbers alone illustrate how large and extensive this archive was. And now, following on from earlier, it is important to recall that one part of this archive was donated to the Johann Josef Fuchs Conservatory in 2002, while another part went to the Kanonische Forschungsstelle. So this donation became the core collection of the BLIZ, and even more, it was the reason why the BLIZ was founded, because it was in Wolfgang Supern's interest that Blasmusikinformationszentrum should be catalogued and made publicly accessible. Over the years, the collections of the BLIZ itself expanded as further collections were added. Given the circumstances you have heard before, that the conservatory needed space and the retirement of Supern, the need arose to document the BLIZ and its materials to prevent it from falling into oblivion. Because, to put it bluntly, if a collection is not catalogued, it doesn't exist. That's the crucial point. Valuable collections are meaningless if no one knows they exist. In other words, what use are they if they cannot be researched or found in any catalog? This and the impending relocation of the BLIZ marked the starting point for our final project as part of the postgraduate training course for academic librarians called Library and Information Studies. I was joined by my two colleagues, Lisa Dreier and Katharina. And to put faces to the names, in the front row on the left is Lisa Dreier, next to her Katharina. In the second row on the right is our colleague from the Styrian State Library, Karl Bütter, the contact person for the BLIZ, and on the left, that's me. After initial discussions with Katharina, and once we had an overview of the situation, it became clear that our main task would be to describe the collections of the BLIZ, to ask and answer the question, what exactly is there? And we also needed to determine its scope. How many linear meters are we dealing with? When inspecting the shelves, it quickly became clear that the materials were not arranged according to any consistent system, and that the different materials had simply been placed wherever space was available. Nevertheless, in the end, we were able to determine the total extent of the collection in linear meters, divided according to the following media types, which, by the way, is a very librarian way to describe things. The BLIZ collection comprises 78.5 linear meters of sheet music, scores and parts. The estates of Ernest Meyer and Karl Käfer in some 18 linear meters, 16 linear meters of books, including theses and encyclopedias. Just one moment, somebody wants to join us. 16 linear meters of books, including theses and encyclopedias, 14 linear meters of journals, 5 linear meters of publisher catalogs, and 16 linear meters of best-written commemorative publications. Okay. Altogether, this totals 142.5 linear meters. This is supplemented by 2 linear meters of slipcases labeled as problematic cases. In addition to these linear meters, there are 23 boxes with oversized sheet music and 8 more slipcases, both from the workspace mentioned earlier. In addition, there are also 4 boxes full with sheet music yet to be looked through and processed. We also counted 8,295 pieces of sheet music in total, 7,181 of which are condensed in full scores, sorted alphabetically by composer name in book troves visible here on the slides. These troves are a special feature of the BLIZ. They may be convenient for users browsing through stores, but speaking as a librarian, they are problematic because it causes confusion during cataloging scores and parts separated, which happened here. As a result, we do not know whether the existing library records are accurate or not. Ideally, if a score and its parts exist, there should only be one library record, not two separate ones, one for the score and one for the parts. As mentioned before, only a part of the BLIZ has been catalogued. About 40 linear meters of sheet music, as you can see here, represented by slipcases labeled Davis and marked with the accession numbers. Davis was the former library system, the current one is core, as we heard. Apart from this, there is another catalog sheet music collection that originally came from the library of the Young Music Conservatory. When the library closed, its collection of sheet music for wind bands was transferred to the BLIZ, amounting to about 4 linear meters. These pieces are also stored in slipcases labeled Davis with corresponding accession numbers. Other sheet music originating from Wolfgang Supern's archive includes 16 slipcases, that's 2 linear meters of March book format sheet music labeled as incomplete, polka, waltz, Mayo, Gundel, and problematic cases. Additionally, there are 2 linear meters of March book format sheet music, also originally from Supern's archive, stored in the narrow compartments which you saw on the photo before. 7.5 linear meters in slipcases and boxes labeled condensed score missing, to take inventory, old materials, Bürghold, Windband Admont, and again problematic cases. Collage boxes are marked BLIZ old materials. Of particular interest are maybe 41 folders, 5 linear meters containing condensed scores or parts of marches. These folders form an alphabetical directory of marches that likely served as the basis for the 12 musical volumes titled Repertorium für Blasmusikinformationszentrum, der Menschen für Blasmusikinformationszentrum. There are also other kinds of sheet music, such as chamber music for wind instruments, 7 linear meters ranging from solos and works for 10 and more musicians, and sheet music with a connection to stereo called Musik in the Steiermark. At this point, it must be emphasized that within the scope of our project, we only determined the extent of the materials and grouped them. Because of time constraints and due to the confines of our course, it was not possible to work on the content in detail to provide more precise statements about the sheet music itself, which would also go beyond the scope of library work. Our task was to lay the foundation for further work, whether that will be undertaken by librarians or by wind music researchers. I did, however, take one random sample. The slipcases labeled old materials contain sheet music from the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s. The instrumentation is mixed. There is sheet music for salon orchestra, which means instrumentation including string instruments. Printed sheet music predominates, while handwritten music is the exception. Some of the sheet music seems to originate from a certain military band, the Gebirgsjäger-Ersatzregiment 138, confirmed by the stamp. In addition, these parts condensed scores, letters, correspondence, and old empty envelopes. Now I would like to say something about other special parts of the collection. The Festschriften, publisher catalogs for journals. Festschriften and publisher catalogs in particular were hardly ever collected and preserved, making them a rarity. The BLIZ collection is 21 linear meters of them. The BLIZ house is one of the largest collections of Festschriften in the German-speaking world. They are stored in ring binders and organized alphabetically by country and location from A to Z, covering 16 linear meters. According to Wolfgang Supern, they, quote, do not only document local wind band history, but also contribute to a general history of wind band, quote end. The publisher catalogs visible on the left side cover the period from 1966 to 2000. The 55 folders, 6 slipcases, and 2 books arranged alphabetically make up 5 linear meters. The journals, some of them can be seen on the right side, cover approximately 40 millimeters. They focus on Austrian and German publications. The oldest is the Musikzeitung für Oberbaden from 1924. Another special feature is that many of the journals are bound and some are available in complete runs, such as the Allgemeine Volksmusikzeitung, predecessor of Blasmusik, die Österreichische Blasmusikinformationszentrum, or the aforementioned Musikzeitung für Oberbaden. Concerning the books in the BLIZ, the collection of 16 millimeters includes literature on wind bands, wind music, and wind music research, both national and international. Theses and community chronicles containing passages or sentences on local wind band music traditions. The books are divided into the categories territorial, history, personnel, military music, and instrumentations education, but they are not cataloged. The book section also includes the Alte Musiker series and several encyclopedias. The photo on the right shows folders that contain the previously mentioned March directory. Now I would like to present another more library-specific part of our projects. As mentioned earlier, only a small part of sheet music has been catalogued, and since this cataloging was done in the old library system DABIS, those records could not be migrated into the new library system COBA. Furthermore, since there were no templates for cataloging music materials in the new system, part of our project was to create such a template. This started with a mapping between the guidelines of RDA, Resource Description and Access, and the library system COBA, while taking into account the rules of the Austrian Library Network OBV. I won't go into too much detail here. All you should know is that cataloging music material is significantly more complex than cataloging books, and one must understand these special features. Another part was to create a cataloging guideline specifically for the BLIZ sheet music, a challenging task for librarians, particularly due to the special focus on wind music. The following slides show 5 typical examples of materials found in the BLIZ which were used to integrate cataloging features. The first one is about parts in March book format. You can ignore the other notes on the slide, it's probably too detailed library language. The fact that the composer is unknown, which is common for traditional dances, requires the specific cataloging knowledge. The next one shows a march with a condensed score and parts. The third one adds another special feature. It is a manuscript with handwritten parts, making it a unique resource requiring an even more specialized cataloging knowledge. The fourth example tops the previous one because here we have a handwritten arrangement consisting of a score and parts. It is something special when there are handwritten scores, which is really quite rare. The last example shows a common print of an overture consisting of parts. The first clarinet and the first cornet are also labeled as condensed score direction. At the end of our final paper, we noted that minor conservation work on the sheet music stored in throws would be beneficial, such as removing clear plastic sleeves, metal objects like clips and staples, and ensuring optimal light and temperature conditions, many of which have already been implemented. For the future, several projects would highly desirable. The first and foremost priority is cataloging the BLIZ collection. Another crucial goal is to move the BLIZ to a new location outside of the basement, if opportunities arise. Comparing the BLIZ and PFS collections would also be beneficial for identifying doublets, freeing space. As we all know, space is limited and expensive, and gaining a better overall understanding of both collections. Eventually creating a combined database or catalog encompassing both collections would be a significant step forward, greatly improving searchability and benefiting all library users, particularly researchers. The value of the BLIZ lies in its uniqueness. It is a one-of-a-kind collection of sheet music for wind bands, including historical collections, both printed and handwritten, from military and civilian wind bands. Equally distinctive are the journals and periodicals, publisher catalogs, and classification. All of these are important source materials for repertoire research or research with a certain regional focus and provide valuable historical data. The immense scope of the BLIZ collection can definitely offer comprehensive and new insights and findings. It is therefore of utmost importance to preserve this unique collection from oblivion. Through our documentation of the BLIZ collection, it was possible to establish an important foundation for its preservation. The need for expertise is also evident. The collection requires a librarian who can catalog sheet music and possesses knowledge of wind music, or at least music in general. Cataloging is the foundation of everything. It makes a collection visible and searchable. However, libraries require resources, particularly financial resources, for this work, which are currently very limited. It is also a challenge to convince decision makers of the value and importance of special collections like those in the BLIZ and in the PFS. At this time, a short reminder that the estates, Festschriften and publisher catalogs from the BLIZ are now located and accessible in the Styrian State Library. At the end, I would like to emphasize once again that the BLIZ and the PFS are the only two institutions or libraries that house unique materials on wind music, certainly within Austria, perhaps within all of Europe. In both cases, Wolfgang Suppan's Blasmusikinformationszentrum forms the foundation and the core of these collections. For me, for us, it was important to spread the word about these collections and to increase awareness about them, in combination with the challenges that these special and unique collections bring with them for libraries and librarians. Such special collections are the basis for wind music research, and one must be happy to find them available. Wind music collections often did not deem worthy, and archives of military bands or civil wind bands were thrown away. So, it is really rare to have them, but it needs resources to make them available. As mentioned before, financial and human resources are limited, so maybe third-party funding for cataloging projects is a way to get work done. Now, at the very end, I want to say a heartfelt thanks to you, Katharina, for your willingness to delve deeply into this special subject. Through your dedication and engagement, greater awareness to this topic is already emerged. The more inquiries there are, the easier it becomes to argue for obtaining financial resources to make these collections accessible. So thank you for your attention, and we look forward to your questions and comments.
I don't know if anyone understands me when I'm speaking here. What do they say online?